Heart beats pure in his name. Fire burns, no shame. Faithful shepherd, guide my way. In your light I never stray. Every step I trust your plan, standing strong where I am. Holy, holy, sing it loud. Lift our voices to the cloud. In your grace we always find peace and love of humankind. Beneath the stars I kneel to pray. Grateful for.
All right, hey, we are a little delayed here. I apologize, but for you to watch it live. But we have
Scott was late.
Yeah, we have Sheriff Mike Lee with us. Sheriff, thank you for coming to do this.
Absolutely, thank y'all for having me.
You are a super busy man, and but we appreciate you doing this. And I just want to thank you personally, because I guess I've known you for 20 plus years, and the whole time I've known you, anytime I've asked you to try to help somebody, I can't remember you ever saying no, and always went beyond what your responsibilities were to help people and help individuals and help me personally. So I really appreciate it, and I also appreciate you allowing us. Matter of fact, my son's got a soccer game, but we'll be at the Scott County Jail tonight giving out Christmas bags. But you let us come and do celebrate recovery and minister, and I think this is our 4th year that you've worked with us to do the Operation Family Blessing, where we get presents for the those that are incarcerated as children. So thank you so much for letting us do all that. And we're blessed because the sheriff of Lee County and of course you and Rankin County and Madison County all work with us. And I know y'all don't have to do that. And it's more work on you, but we really appreciate you for doing that.
Well, and you know, right back at you, the same way. It's an important time of year, and that there are people that are less fortunate, unfortunately, are incarcerated. So to bring some bit of Christmas cheer to them is very important to us also.
And let me just tell you, too, man, from the perspective of someone who's been there, it really means a lot to the guys who are in there, man. You know what I mean? Like, all year long, when you sit in prison or jail, man, you when that time of the year comes up, man, you just know it's some people bring socks and whatever, and it's really good. And I just want to say I appreciate you guys allowing them to do that as well.
We appreciate it.
Sheriff, I teach a Celebrate Recovery class at the Lee County Prison, and they let me, when they graduated, I bought them Popeyes. So anyway, we got done. This guy was crying. And he came up and hugged me, and I thought he was going to say, "Man, you're the best teacher I ever had," or "I thank you for introducing me to Jesus." But he's like, "Thank you, brother. This is the first free world food I've had in 8 years and 3 months and 7 days away." So I'm going to buy Popeyes from now on for that. And I want to give a shout out to Michael Mansour. He really does all of our Scott County. He goes there on Thursdays and teaches the trustees and handles all he and his wife, they actually start buying presents on December 26th for the next year. So they spend a lot of time in that. So Sheriff, tell us about your journey with Jesus, just growing up, about your faith.
I've got probably the same story as most. Grew up, my parents, my mother was a Presbyterian and my father was a Baptist. And so when we moved to Forest at the age of 3 years old, we went to the Methodist church for a little while. I guess that was a kind of in between. And from there, a few years later, we moved to the Baptist church, and so God has always been a part of me growing up. My parents made sure of that. When I was 13, I made my profession of faith and was baptized in the Baptist church. And but where my journey kind of falls short is when I was out of the house and living in Oxford with my brother and was going to Ole Miss, that I just kind of fell out of going to church, and those motivations to get up and go were not present, and so I felt that I was that was kind of a low point as far as my walk with God. But fortunate, I was able to meet a Christian girl who I'd known for a long time, and my father always told us that my brother and my dad always taught us that you are the spiritual leader of your household. You know that you are the one that needs to make sure that your walk with Jesus is not only yours but your family's. And so after Nicole and I got married, and we started that journey, and again, I had the right partner, and of course our daughter, same way. We brought her up in the church, and it's just been from then on, things have been right back on track.
Could you attribute anything that's really helped you in your journey with Christ? Can you think back to like a transition, or maybe something that helped you grow more than anything else?
In my life, there's been a bunch of those. There are so many times that I'm not worthy of God's love, and I think that maybe I've fallen backwards, in my prayer time or spending. So there's a number of those things, especially after 55 years now. And going back, I just think of tough times that we've had. More recently in my life would be Nicole and I have a son that passed away a day after birth, and that was extremely hard. And but knowing that, I go back to the scriptures, the way that David, after he lost his child, he cried, he mourned, he did all, but when it was done, it was done. And he's still saddened, I'm sure, but remember, he took a meal, and I kind of look at those things that maybe the bumps in the road have been the best growth that I've had.
I was talking to a guy this morning. We was talking about that we rejoice in the Lord, not in our circumstances, and that's the key. We rejoice in the Lord, and He never promised to save us from the fire. He saves us in the fire. It doesn't say I walk around the valley of the shadow of death. I walk, through the valley, and I'm sure. I can't imagine losing a child. That's a club nobody signs up for.
That's right.
I'm sure that it has created an empathy in you for other parents that have gone through that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Again, you hate to say bright spots, but you look for light when there's darkness, and other parents that have gone through it, we've both been able to help. And there were great people at that time that we had around us. Our church, our preacher and his family. We were lucky to have the people that we had, that as we went through these tough times, that we had good people around us that continued to encourage us and showed us what God's grace is all about.
Just for someone listening, what would you tell them when somebody's going through a crisis like that, how they can help them? Because I know that's a question people always have. I don't know what to say. What do I do? And
well, the first thing is that sometimes by just letting the conversation, starting the conversation would be it. Prayer is big for people in that situation, but what would you say? I would say let it start, as they say, organically, that you are just letting someone know, hey, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in speaking to people that reached out to us, just a conversation would start of, hey, just wanted y'all to know I'm thinking about you, and that would turn into more and more talk. And I'm not a person that when something like that happens, I don't like to be reminded of it, just constant talk, if that makes sense. But I think that was part of the therapy of it, is that getting that out. And you just never know a simple phone call or a meeting on the street of starting that conversation up with someone who is lost or going through hard times, what that may lead to, that you may really bless someone with just that little bit.
I always, I have friends that I have that have lost their children. I just say I love you. I don't know, because I don't want to come across I know obviously the Word of God. There's the Word of God, and there's power in the gospel. But sometimes we come across it's like a platitude, and so I've had people tell me, "Well, I don't go to the funeral home because I don't know what to say." I'm like, brother, it's not like you can read a book, because every situation is
That's
different.
right.
And everybody handles things different. So I just say, man, I love you. I don't have any.
That's right. That's right.
I love you. So
Well, I've got a great partner. Again, I go back to my wife. That she's one that likes to be reminded of what's going on, and of course have just recently lost her mother, and pictures and things like that. And so I think that we are a very good mix of that. But again, we were lucky to have people around us that kind of helped with each side of everything that we had going on at the time.
talking about your partner, you have the sweet. Well, you got the sweetest daughter too.
Well,
I've been
you,
around
thank
kids
you.
all my life, and she was always just. But you have the sweetest wife. But y'all just celebrated 28 years.
28
marriage.
years, we did. Somehow it got thrown up that it was just recently, but it actually was in June when that happened. I think somebody went back and had tagged that picture on Facebook. But 28 years I've been blessed, and we have a daughter who is 26, Mary Grace, and is just a big part of our faith and our family. We always say faith and family, and I try to make sure that I live by that. God has shown me that through His grace that that's the way I've got to go. And if I don't have that, I don't have that family structure. I've got to really, find my way in faith to make sure that we have that family structure.
I was thinking. I started saying in the law enforcement community, 28 years is like a mile, but just in our culture in general, with the marriages, the challenges with marriage and divorce and all. So 28 years for anybody is a remarkable feat, but especially in the law enforcement community, I know y'all have pressures that most people don't realize. So the fact that y'all have been married 28 years says a lot about both of your character and your faith, because I would think that your testimony is that Jesus has kept us together. And
Definitely so. And when my wife and I started dating, I was in law enforcement, and the hurdles. I had someone that I could talk to about what's going on at work, and then while we were dating, I went to the Meridian Lauderdale County Drug Task Force, worked there, and was elected chief. And so she's been there for each step of my journey through law enforcement.
that's cool. She have an honorary badge. That
She should. She should. She should.
You have a unique distinction too when you talk about getting elected chief, because you were the police chief of Forest for a while, and the sheriff of Scott County. And I know that's kind of, I know Malcolm McMillan had that distinction, but that's kind of a rare thing.
It is.
I wonder how many people can say that they were served both.
Yeah, for a short while, I actually served as both. I had things that I needed to complete as chief, and so remained chief of police while I was sheriff. But with sheriffs, most will tell you that, especially a rural area like ourselves, we've got a jail and other distractions. So you try to give where you can your best, and so it was best for me to walk away from being
And I don't
chief.
think people realize the sheriff is the chief executive of a county.
Yes,
So
chief
the-
law
So
enforcement officer.
most people think of a sheriff, just the policing part of it, but you're in charge of the jail, and that means medical stuff, legal stuff. You're in charge of the courthouse. So there's a bigger picture than just pulling somebody over and giving them a ticket.
Yes, that's right. It's a lot of working parts, from laundry to feeding to even our road crews that assist the supervisors. We just have a lot of working parts.
And how long have you been sheriff?
nearly the end of this term will be 20 years.
So, and I know that's a calling, and I really see that. I got blessed because I was able to coach for so many years, and I think about coaching military and law enforcement because most plumbers don't call their friends and say, "Hey, you remember that toilet that I worked on?" and all. But something about those professions, there's a camaraderie and a calling that like most people are in law enforcement, they couldn't do anything else. That's what God made them to do. And,
yeah, and that's all I could do. But kind of to switch places real quick. Of God putting you in places. I go back to the kids that you impacted, and there are two, my daughter and her fiance, that are getting married, that have asked Brother Scott to marry them. So, but I think that I've been to several weddings of young people that you have taught and coached, and it speaks highly of you. So I wanted to make sure that people understand that.
But look, I thought when I hear these people say, like Frank Sinatra, I did it my way and I have no regrets. I have a ton of regrets. I think about that all the time. And
I think we all do. Yeah,
I wish I could go back when I was teaching, coaching, and be more. I can think of a lot of things. I think, man, I wish I wouldn't have been so hard. I wish I hadn't said that, or I wish I'd done this different. And but anyway, I appreciate you saying that. Tell us how you got into law enforcement.
It was very strange. I had a friend who, a close friend of mine, Trey Rogers, who I graduated high school with.
I got to preach at Trey's church, I guess 3 weeks ago. So y'all graduated?
Yes, we graduated together, and he mentioned it to me, and I thought, no, I don't want to do that when we were in college. And so during the break, I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, and was trying to find my way, and I had a friend in Forest that said, maybe you should do a ride-along with the police. And so I spoke with Chief Jamie Veazey, who was chief, and did a ride-along, and from the moment I started that ride-along was the moment that I wanted to be in this profession. And
was it something that just clicked, or was it the whole thing?
I think it was the whole thing. I'd grown up in Forest. We moved there when I was 3 years old, and I just didn't know. Forest is small enough that we could go inside and close our door, and we just never knew things happen, and people needed help, and I think that was what kind of that there was more things going on and more things that needed attention, and that kind of got. I like that kind of the adrenaline side of things. I think early on as a young man, that was it. Not so much when you're 55, but when you're 22, it does. Yes.
Damon, I guess they asked you to do a ride along too, didn't they?
Man, they asked me to do a bunch of ride-alongs. They didn't ask very nicely. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of a.
I think it's good. Damien, how
They
many
kind of insisted.
Yeah. How many years were you incarcerated, Damien?
Man, put it all together, probably close to around 20 altogether, man.
So, and I think it's cool. We had Bubba Holyfield on here, too, and I think it's cool how guys transformed Damien's life and how, and I made a comment, guys done such a work in Damien's life, he doesn't even have that convict feel about him. I mean, you can tell by the tattoos and scars, but so one day I was talking, I said, man, Damon's just like this koala bear. He said, you couldn't come up anything better than a koala bear.
Koala bear. I was like, listen, man, of all things in the world, I'm not a marsupial. You know what I'm saying? I don't have my babies in my pouch. You know what I'm saying?
In my time in law enforcement, though, you are the guys that we are hoping to see. We kind of take the adage. I think that a lot of times you see the way TV portrays law enforcement and now videos and YouTube and all that our first thing is that we want to make that arrest. Boy, let's make that arrest. And at the sheriff's office, we kind of take a step back from that and go, unfortunately, it's a part of what we have to do. But if we don't have to make an arrest, we have succeeded. We have stopped whatever's going on. If people that are doing bad stop doing bad, that's great. And just like you, that just to see the success of getting to the other side and the story that is in itself. So
We,
Amen.
you know how it says,
That's for you, Mike, right there in the middle. If you want to read that off the screen.
says, please tell Mr. Mike, I said, thank you so much for your service. I can only imagine all the hard work the job entails. Thank you for being so selfless and committed to helping others in the communities. So thank you very much. You are much appreciated, from Tamara Brock. Hey, talking about a success story, you know how it says to serve the Lord with a joyful heart? I was doing it last night, and I didn't have a joyful heart. But anyway, I was hoping they could come we got a guy that we love named Tripp that got out of jail yesterday, and I got him into a ministry called Family Restoration in Simpson County. But I was wanting them to come pick him up, and they couldn't. So last night, 9 o'clock, I'm driving to Simpson County to get him there. But Henry, that was one of y'all's trustees, is in that program, and he's the superstar there.
wow.
And
superstar?
Yeah, he's working at the chicken plant.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Huh?
He's working at the chicken plant because he left y'all and had to do a A&D program in a facility. But anyway, he's working, and he's a leader there, and he's in church, and he's doing all, and came from the Scott County trustee program. And
You can't beat that.
and another one that is Opie.
Absolutely.
Opie Steele. Matter of fact, when I called his company that he's working for to try to get him a job, and then they said, well, how long has he been in? And I told him, and he said, Scott, I don't know about that now. And I said, look, if you hire him, you'll thank me. And I saw that guy at the wedding, and he came up and said, man, you was right, but man, he's still doing good and
He
still
is
serving. And
doing good, and is a success story, and he has a great story to tell on his journey also.
yeah, well, but again, that goes back to what, and like I said, I don't think people realize, and sometimes we get calls. I had a guy that called me the other day, a guy that in another jail that we were helping, and he can't read. And he was wanting a literacy thing, and I think people don't realize sometimes that the sheriffs and the law enforcement, they're running a jail. It's not
Right.
It's not true. And I'm like, well, brother, we can try to, but they've got feeding and commissary and this and that. It's not like we can just take him out. And but anyway, I don't think people realize y'all don't have to do the things you do, and it's more work on your part. But when you see stories like with Henry and Opie and all, we really, really appreciate it. And I want you to know that you planting those seeds or allowing those seeds to be planted, and some good things are coming out of it. And because we much rather those people be working and paying taxes and not breaking the laws.
That's right.
Than the other
That's
side.
right. And to see those, there are so many of those success stories that come out that people in our community don't necessarily see, because they do. They come out and they start doing well.
How often do people come back and thank you? Does that happen?
It does happen some. It's not a we live again in a small community, and so people coming back and speaking with us, or we see them out, and just run into each other. That makes you excited as a sheriff, as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
You see somebody that has had run in after run in after run in, and for them to change their life, and something clicked.
Mm-hmm.
And it is usually, that click is usually finding Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
That is usually the click
Yep.
that starts that roll.
You remember the old Andy Griffith episode where the guy got out, was bringing Andy a shotgun?
I do. Yes.
Damien,
Yes,
you're too young to remember Andy Griffith, but
I know Andy Griffith, buddy.
guy got out of prison, and Opie, Barney and them thought he was going to try to hold him hostage, but he was presenting them that shotgun as a gift for arresting them. And,
I think Andy had shot him in the leg or something like that, and it just thought it was bad.
we have a guy named, in Celebrate Recovery, we give coins for like years of sobriety, and there's a guy named Drew Long, and every year he goes to Brian Bailey and gives him his coin, because he says when Brian arrested him, he said, you saved my life. So he goes every year and presents him his sobriety coin or chip or whatever you want to call it. So you got law enforcement, and you got to work undercover for a year.
I did. I worked undercover for a year. It was not the glam and glitz that you see on TV. It usually consisted of having a cover team and going out making cases. In the cases that I made, I don't now, but used to look a little bit younger when I was younger, and so I got in on that undercover working into a group that were kind of well-to-do kids, should not have been into drugs, should not have been selling drugs, and got into that group pretty good. And again, it's a part that you just, if there was any, these were not kids that were down on their luck and did not, bad things were occurring at home, and these were kids that should not have been in that position ever, but were selling and pushing drugs into Lauderdale County.
And you did that for a year?
I did that for a year until the arrests were made, and some requested a trial, and so I had to testify.
So that, I guess, blew your cover.
Right,
And
absolutely.
What made you decide not to continue that as a career and get into the regular policing?
Well, when I was working in Lauderdale County, and I loved working there, had a great group of guys that I worked with. Sheriff Billy Solly was the sheriff at the time, and but I miss home, and Forrest was my home. Again, where I'd grown up, and so in Forrest, it is an elected position, or was at the time. It's no longer. It's appointed now, but was elected, and I just decided that I would try my hand at it, that I felt led that I should try it. I am so grateful to the citizens of Forrest. At 27, they elected me, and I just promised that I would never look back, that I would try to move forward and not be that 27-year-old, would try to put some wisdom into it and show how much I appreciate it.
So you transitioned from working undercover to literally being
Well,
chief.
I did work topside. I was a topside agent for another year and a half.
Now, what does that mean, topside
In the
agent?
jail.
That's the guy that's working the cases.
Okay.
That's going out and actually looking for your street level crime and areas where there are problems. It's not where you're having to cover your face when you go out.
And you have any highlights during that time? Any stories that you can tell
gosh,
on the air that stick out?
One that sticks out to me, and again, I went in undercover working a young man who lived not far from the Meridian High School. Yeah, his grandparents, I believe, is who he was living with. I know that's who he was living with. And I believe that his grandfather was a dentist. So I don't want to say any names, even though his grandfather's probably retired at this point. But I went in and I had a hat on backwards and just trying to look the part of a young man, and bought a good bit of drugs from the young man in his room. And when we left, we got back to the drug task force office, and what occurs is you give it to the case agent who's working the case. And so I remember sitting down in my lieutenant's office, and he asked me, he says, "That what you wore?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "That's the hat you wore?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I thought it was a White Sox hat, and I took it off, and there's a big badge that said
You
agent
gotta be kidding me,
on
man.
the back of it. Now, I know that the young man walked behind me going up the stairs to his bedroom. There was no way you could not see that. And he still sold me plenty of drugs.
Man, that is hilarious.
Criminals aren't the smartest people, are they, Damien?
He was like, he wouldn't wear it if he was really a cop.
I guess so. A novelty hat.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
a tactic that they need to employ
I
in the
guess
undercover
so.
world.
I made sure not to make that mistake again, but I think at some point he should have thought, well, where'd you get that? I wouldn't even ask about the hat. So
That's funny, man.
Now, I know because Damon, when I was teaching, Sheriff Lee would always come in. We would have like a career day where we'd have different people come in and talk, and he would always come in and talk about law enforcement, and you'd say every year, I know you're going to ask me this question, but you actually were shot, and it was at a time, I guess, is it mandatory now that all law enforcement wear bulletproof, or is it up to each department?
It's still up to each department, but at that time, bulletproof vests cost a lot of money. They still do, and it was hard on departments, and I was fortunate enough to have one.
But it was kind of an oddity that you were one of the few that wore it.
Yes,
weren't
yes.
you? So
There were several that of us younger guys that wore vests, and
was that the encouragement of your wife, or was it?
well, she wasn't in the picture yet.
Oh,
We
okay.
had just started dating, so you know, like I said, every time that something occurred, good or bad, my wife was a part of that.
So walk us through that, because, and I should have, we leave the Madison County Jail on Tuesday and come here, so I didn't have time, but I meant to look up, because I think people would be shocked at the percentage, because they watch TV and they think cops just shoot their guns all the time,
Right.
but it's very low how many cops have actually fired their weapons. It's a very low percentage of how many law enforcement that's been shot, but you hit that percentage.
Yes, yes.
Walk us through that story.
It was on New Year's Eve of 1993, of 1994, excuse me. I made a traffic stop as a police officer in the city limits of Forest, which again, your partners are only about 2 or 3 minutes away. So when you make traffic stop, your partner starts coming that way. And my partner was a man named Joe Lee, an officer, and Joe's passed away now. But Joe was coming to me as I made a traffic stop. It was Townsend Road at the time, but it was Northside Drive, but is now Martin Luther King Boulevard, for anybody that kind of knows that area. And when I stopped the vehicle, it had a towel that was blowing back and forth on the back of the car. And so I gave out what I could see of the letters. It was an out-of-state tag, and I believe that it was Georgia or Florida. But I went up to get out of the car and to move the towel was actually, it wasn't a towel over the tag. It was a rag that was tying the trunk down, that was down low where the tag was. And so as I went to get that tag number from it, the driver stepped out of the vehicle. And being a naive young police officer, I walked up, and as he put his hand toward his back pocket, my first thought was, he's getting his driver's license. I mean, we're in the city of Forest. Okay, this doesn't happen, and we're not in a secluded area. We're in an area where people live, and it was not his wallet. It was a pistol, and he fired once, and I was hit in the chest. And as I went backwards, the passenger of the vehicle jumped out and started shooting up the patrol car. So as I got back to the rear of my car, I started firing back, and their vehicle jumped in their vehicle and made a U-turn, and I jumped into a ditch that was right there next to us. I was worried about as they went by shooting again from where I was at the rear of the car. And to this day, the person responsible has not been caught. So when people ask me, do I know what victims go through? Absolutely, I do.
I asked you one time, because it shocks me that they've never been caught, but you said that guy's face is etched in your mind.
Yeah. There's no doubt that I would know that person. And for years, and I mean for years, whenever there was a police-involved shooting, whether it was in another state, wherever it was, not only did I try to keep up with it, but I actually still have news clippings because of trying to get, trying to see if there's a face or someone involved, or, but you constantly look for those things. And
I know it would just be speculation, but do you have any idea why they?
I don't. Suspected maybe drugs because the vehicle's not from our area. The numbers that I read out, dispatcher that was working when I called out that shots had been fired just forgot everything that I had said. And so, there was not again, it happens in a little bitty forest, and so a lot of things were missed and messed up from the get-go.
Did time just stop at that moment? Was it just sheer fear and adrenaline? Can you remember specific things?
You know, I can't. One of the things that, and it's probably true of any traumatic incident anybody goes through when they have an accident or assaulted, like I was, that I had a bulletproof vest on, but when I was hit, it didn't feel like I had a bulletproof vest on, and I remember the ambulance service wanting to a law enforcement officer that has a button-down shirt. It's usually a button at the top, button at the bottom, and the other buttons cover a zipper. And have you ever stomped your toe in the middle of the night and you know it hurts, you know it's probably bleeding, but you don't want to look at it? Well, I'd forgotten I had a vest on. I felt like the bullet was in me. That's what I was thinking. I was not thinking about the bulletproof vest on me. The impact had knocked the breath out of me and had left a big bruise on me. But at the time, I felt like it was in me, and I didn't want to see that right then. I was trying to catch my breath. I was muddy, and they were trying to see, and I was telling them, just wait. And I forgot I had a vest on. You know, thank goodness I did, but you just forget all about it. So there are things that you remember to do, and then there are things that you're just not thinking of, and that was one of them.
I think about Romans 8:28, where it says God works all things together for good to those who love him are called according to his purpose. But I know after that, you got to go and speak to law enforcement officers about the importance of wearing bulletproof vest, or what's the proper term, ballistic vest or vest? Or
ballistic vest, bulletproof vest. I think we refer to it as both. DuPont, who had at the time was the inventor of Kevlar, or had the patent on it at least. They had what's called their Survivors Club, and I believe it wasn't until, and it's bad to say that it took catching up, but in 1999, I believe, or 2000, maybe even 2001, we were invited to speak to the Chiefs of Police Association, the international, so chiefs from all around the country, and the importance on getting bulletproof vests. Now, there are so many people that are more instrumental than I, but I'm proud of what we were able to accomplish in the next few years of making sure that, if you couldn't afford vests, that there was a vest grant program. And it had been started up by the state of Mississippi and making sure that other agencies knew about this. And so now it's an uncommon thing to see a law enforcement officer that does not have a vest.
As far as Scott County Sheriff's Department, I guess everybody has a vest.
Yes, we make sure that you have a vest from the first day you get there. You know, it takes a little bit of we order vests that are tailored fit to each deputy, but we also have spare vests that we use until they get their vest in.
I've seen on some of these departments trying to raise money and make sure they're officers and all, but Scott County is covered, huh?
Yes.
What's something that you wish the general public knew as a law enforcement officer when you're making a traffic stop that helps them and helps you?
Well, this it's funny you ask that, because I look at it as both ways. A stop is an uncomfortable thing anyway. If you've ever been stopped, and I'm growing up, hey, I've been stopped, so I know how it is to be the stoppee and the stopper. But let me go from it from a law enforcement standpoint, so that things that we could do that could ease some of the tension, and we try to teach our young guys this, that we first go up to the car and say who we are, our name, who we're with, the Scott County Sheriff's Office, and say that the reason that I stopped you. Now, you've gotten all that out of the way. There's no reason for, and saying that in a good way. You say that in a polite way. And you can only be as polite as the person will allow you to be that's been stopped. Now, the person that's being stopped, the law has, if you're asked to step out, which in most cases we don't, we'd like to control the scene and not have someone step out. But by law, you've got to step out. By showing your driver's license, sometimes that is, and as a driver, you can bring things down also. The arguing of whether I did or didn't, it's never the place on the side of the road. That's what courts are for. But so I guess I see that in both ways. That us, as far as law enforcement, I shouldn't go up and say, "Hey, do you know why I stopped you?" I should be expecting them to go, "Well, you're too dumb to catch real criminals." So there are things that we can do as law enforcement, but also, so I think it goes both ways. But the main thing is don't watch a TikTok video on a traffic stop or a YouTube video and believe that that's the way you should behave. You can make
Citizen
things
rights.
right. You can make things better, and the law enforcement officer can make things better. It's kind of a give and take, and so I see it in both ways.
But you prefer them not to step out of their vehicle.
No. I don't want someone getting out, and unfortunately, more officers are killed because of drivers not paying attention. We're unfortunately, a lot of us are killed, or most of us are killed in some type of traffic accident. And I would hate someone to step out in a car looking at our blue lights and hit a person standing on the side of the road. You only ask them to step out when there's when it's evident that you should go a little bit further with the traffic stop.
It helps to have the windows rolled down. It helps to have their hands on the steering wheel.
And most times, that helps out to bring the officer's awareness down. That it's just again, it's always an uncomfortable situation for both. It's not a comfortable situation to walk up to a car, and you look at my case, to walk up to a car and of someone you don't know who they are and what they may do. And as a person being stopped, it's not uncomfortable to be stopped on the side of the road for something you believe you did or did not do.
Tell us some highlights you had as the chief of police in Forest.
Wow, there were a lot. Gosh, I think back to I was fortunate enough to work with Trey Rogers, who I mentioned earlier. He was the investigator there, and we definitely had some different times and things that we went through as far as working together and solving crimes. And I go back to one night, and Trey was the investigator, that we had a lot of businesses in the city that had been broken into. Had broken windows and had gone through a whole line of the downtown area. And unfortunately, one of the last places he broke into was our newspaper, Scott County Times, and was trying to steal change from the back of where change went in for the newspaper. And unfortunately for us, cut himself. And you remember that we spent the time and we literally tracked him right back down to where he lived. And followed that blood trail, and when we got there, and he was not only was there, but had his hand bandaged up from the night before.
So you didn't have to have a bloodhound. Y'all just
we were kind of the bloodhounds that day.
And how many years were you the chief of police?
For 10 years.
10 years, and then decided to run for sheriff. And what prompted that decision?
Again, I think that it was a career move of moving up. From the position I had as chief of police. Again, I talked with the people around me, my wife, my parents, my wife's parents, just everybody around me, my brother. Just what do you think? What do you think? And because I was pretty comfortable being the chief of police, and everybody said, if you feel that that's the way you should go, that's what you should do. And that was done with a lot of prayer also, because I was leaving something that was comfortable to something I did not know. But it was definitely the right career move.
And how big is Scott County, the square miles?
Oh gosh,
You know?
yeah, about 685, 684.
Because
Some of that consists of water. We do have the Cold Bluff area, the reservoir that runs through us.
I think about it because I lived in the Lion Creek community for a while. You know, that's right on the edge. But like this year when Mike was playing football, we went to Sebastopol, and I was telling my wife, this is still Scott County.
That's right.
And y'all's deputies may ever call it Lion Creek, and then Sebastopol, which seems like, I know it's only 30 plus minutes away, but it seems like you're driving to the Delta. And I don't think people realize how vast of an area it is. And at night, how many deputies do you have there patrolling?
We have 4 patrol deputies at night. We also have 4 investigators that handle all property and violent crimes. We have 4 narcotic officers who handle narcotics. We've got, plus our SROs, we've got about 32 deputies, I believe.
But for those 4 deputies at night, that's got to be a scary job to, be on one. And like you said, in the city, somebody's 2 minutes away, but your partner may be in Clarksburg and somebody else in Sebastopol, and it's Scott County or Cold Bluff, like you said.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. You can be distanced from each other, and of course, our deputies are good about being safe entering the scene, but it's always a worry because there's going to be some time that you're by yourself.
And what are some of the things that you're most proud of for your time in Scott County?
Well, one of the things that I'm proud of is the new detention center that we built now more than 10 years ago. We were able to design a facility, and it actually houses our sheriff's office and the detention center. There, where we have 4 people now working narcotics, that used to be the entire sheriff's office, and it is just a small area. And so to be able to work with the supervisors who were elected then, and to get that's one of the things that I'm proud of. The being able to have more deputies in working as investigators, narcotic investigators, specialized, to make sure that, I felt as a victim myself that I was not being seen to like I should have. Just weird feelings. Don't believe that's true, but at the time I felt that way. So that the importance of having people that can be assigned to your case and to see it from the start to the finish was important in getting that. And so I'm real proud of that. We've just grown as a department. I think every sheriff probably should feel that you want to leave it better than you found it, and you want the next guy to take it even further. And I was lucky to have a sheriff before me that was building up and left it in a good place, and we've been able to build forward from there.
Damien, I know you've spent a lot of time in jail. Their jail's unique, and I don't know how come more counties have not, or is that something in the future that they would adopt that, because it makes perfect sense.
It does. We have the what they call domes, and our people around love to say igloos,
Yeah.
because they're white.
Yeah, Damien, it looks like an igloo dome, but the way it's set up is that there's no, and you know as well as I do, there's spots that you can't be seen, but there, the way it's built, there's no hiding spots.
Yeah, that's
And
a
then
good thing.
the officers are up on top, so they can literally see all the zones from up top. So
That's right. It's a unique design, but it has been very. One, it was economical. That it came in under budget back then, and so that was one thing. And the other has been that as far as you're able to house prisoners comfortably without them being on top of each other. This design has helped do that.
yeah. And then the heating and air savings too, because you're not heating and
Big time
cooling,
energy, yes. Been a big time energy saver.
So, Damon, the sheriff lets us. We do a revival through Andy Bowles and Embrace. I know they're real involved in Scott County Jail
Yes.
Ministry, but he lets us do a revival there every year. So we'll have to get you approved to go. But I gave up my preaching spot this year, so Danny Ivy.
Oh, Danny's good, man. That's good.
Danny's also
Yep.
he got the. I gave up my spot, and I was the prayer request taker, but. It's a very cool the way y'all have it, and all your officers there, and y'all have a gym, and everything's all in one place. And
We do.
It's very
We do.
Convenient. So.
How does that work, Sheriff? With me being a multiple convicted felon, I've only got 4 convictions, but I've got probably, I don't know, man. I'd say about 16 felonies.
Well, let me tell you, and this is the way that I've always
Being
looked
honest,
at
man.
that. You know, guys like you who are a success story of being out, I can sit there and tell you, especially in your time of being in jail, hey, you should have done this, you should have done that.
That's right.
And you can look at me and go, you don't know what it's like. You don't know how I feel or how I felt. When somebody, though, that has walked in those shoes.
That's right, man.
That's the power of someone that is in your place. That can sit there and go, yeah, I've walked in that. But you can get out of this continuing to come back to jail. You can get out of that. You've just got to want to. And when it comes from someone like you, it's more important. So someone coming to our jail that can share that, I want that, because we see the same people over and over
Man,
and
I
over.
was that same guy over and over and over again, man. And I'll tell you something. I mean, you can look at a person and you know, like Scott said earlier, man, the scars, the tattoos, the walk even, you know what I mean? You've been in prison for a long time, man. You can pretty much tell. And I'm what you would call one of the most high-risk offenders that there are, because when you get as many convictions as me and you've done as much time as I have behind bars, statistically speaking, right, you're going to go back. And then, we're, 6 years in, man, still going strong, man. I was out for 3 years before that, messed up for 4 months and went back for, another couple of years. But they see that, and it's to say, that if Jesus can change me, then he can change you too. This isn't fake. This isn't jailhouse religion, right?
Right,
This
right.
is
That's right.
real. This is the reality of Christ changing your heart. And by extension, your life changes as well.
Damien, it was cool when Danny went to Scott County. There was actually, of course, they all know him as Little Rock. And
Yeah.
they're like, Little Rock, but they're
Yeah, I wasn't thinking
was-
about that. Danny's been in
yeah,
there.
there was guys that he was in prison with. There was guys that was a part of his affiliation, and they came up to listen. But the sheriff has to, the right guy in charge of doing jail ministry, a guy named Andy Bowles is a pastor. Man, they do so much.
Does a great job.
They actually have a recovery minister on their church, but he is very professional and no nonsense, because he'll tell you, you got to fill out the paperwork. And of course, the sheriff has to approve it, but you have to go through a class. And it tickles me because Andy's like, just like, you know how it is, you can't bring a pen.
Yeah,
And he's like,
yeah.
if you bring a pen and get
A
caught
flex
with it,
pen, son.
I'm
That's your
not,
flex pen.
that's all you can use. But Andy will tell you, if you bring something that you're not supposed to bring and you get put in jail, we're not getting you out. And
Well, the good thing
He
is,
puts the-
is Andy and them do such a good job. They keep everybody out.
oh, they
trouble
do,
there.
and he puts the. He's more stern. He puts the fear of God in you that you're going to do the right thing.
I'll
But-
tell you this: a flex pen is enough punishment to make you never want to go back to prison ever again.
I had to write a name today
that
with that
toothbrush,
flex pen.
man.
Oh yeah, we have the small toothbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
You
have
got a
those.
toothbrush that's like this long,
Yep.
That's the worst
It's
thing
funny,
in
and
the world.
I guess
Terrible.
when you're in jail, you have so much time. But not y'all's facility, but another facility we go to, we got ready to go minister, and they said we need to have a meeting. That's never a good thing. But one of the inmates went to hug one of our guys and stole his pen out of his pocket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I
yeah,
had
they
it
don't
on
get you.
camera, and we had the, a no pen. Sometimes, in Rankin County, me and Aubrey actually have to sign a property release form for every Bible, because that way there's any contraband that's on me and Aubrey. And a lot of times people, they get mad at us. It's like, well, this was Mike's great grandfather's Bible, and I don't understand why he can't get it. So they don't understand that there's a bad world with bad people, and there's a reason that there's the rules. But Damon, I'm sure we could get you through that little class, and since you met the sheriff, next time they have a revival, get you to meet with Brother Andy and go through that little class.
That would be great, man. I'd be honored to, man.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
let me tell you, Brother Andy and his church, Embrace Church, who he's minister of, they've been wonderful because they give you, after you leave, they want to continue ministering to you.
That's the
and,
thing.
And
That's the ticket.
they're there, and they give you a good, safe place surrounded by a congregation that doesn't, and all churches. I go to Forest Baptist. We'd never judge, but he gives you a place where you may be sitting next to someone who's done time before, and you're in a safe place. And again, it's kind of a powerful thing to see all that, and we're appreciative of what he does for
absolutely.
Scott County.
And people don't realize when you're ministering to people with these backgrounds, they bring a lot of problems with them, and then a lot of things you don't take for granted because every church has, the electric company is not giving you your electricity for free just because you're a church. Right. And a lot of these guys don't understand about tithing or giving offerings. So it's really, I know people look at like what Brother Andy does and say, that's cool, we want to do something like that. But they don't realize all that, brother, sacrifices and the challenges and people will break your heart. Some of the, I got a guy right now, I won't mention his name, but man, he was just a superstar in the kingdom to me, and he's back in jail, and they'll break your heart. There's a lot of
they will
heartbreak in that kind of ministry.
People feel like that because in society, Satan's the prince of the power of the air, and society has taught a lot of young people, myself included, that that guy over there at the church, he's just trying to get your money. You should be preaching for free. Well, I mean, you can't do everything for free. If you want to dedicate your life to the Lord and be able to truly shepherd your flock, then you should be able to do that full time without having to go to the steel mill over there and work, 12 hours a day and then come back and try to figure out your, I mean, they deserve to be able to live like anybody else.
Yeah. And then, like I said, it takes money to send people to rehab and the
everything.
So,
Yep. But they do a great job with that. And they, by the way, we want to invite you. You're the type of person that we want into the jail. That said, someone can't say you don't know when you can say absolutely, right. I do know.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sheriff, one of my favorite memories that pops up on Facebook, and I laugh every single time, but you and your whole family got to go with us to Nicaragua on a mission trip, and y'all did a fantastic job, all of you. But Damon,
good leaders.
Sheriff is a very talented guitar player.
Uh-oh.
But I got a video where he and another buddy of mine are playing Knocking on Heaven's Door. And
where's this video?
We all,
Why don't I know about
we're
this
at the
video,
hotel
Scott?
when we were.
That was one of my favorite trips because y'all would get up every morning on our downtime. Y'all would just pick and grin.
Scott, why am I just learning about this video?
I should have, like I said, my
I'm
time's
offended.
being short, but it is so funny because they're
I'm
just
leaving.
picking and grinning and playing. But all my music friends, I know we had like a little reunion at your house on that mission trip, and we did that a couple of times where Nicole would cook. But you have I'm not a musician, but they all covet your guitar collection.
Yeah, well, that's my secret, that I have.
I'm busting your secret.
I was fortunate enough to have a few guitars growing up, and I never got rid of them. I never traded one in. I always kept the ones I had.
But you got a little music studio in your house, and you
I do.
got what's your I guess your favorite guitar that you have?
It's going back to the 80s, and I don't know if anybody would know it because the easy thing is to say a Fender Stratocaster or a Les Paul, but mine is I have an Ibanez GM 777, which is original, and I have it, a matter of fact, in its case in that collection, and it's probably one of the few guitars that's worth a lot of money that I have, but it is by far my favorite. But it is the worst or the loudest colors. It's a great color to me, but if you grew up in the 80s, it's one of the best colors. It's a green, a lime green.
It looks a lot like the Iceman, doesn't it? Is it similar to the Ibanez Iceman?
Not it kind of has the Stratocaster shape, but has a grip where you can that is built into the guitar itself. A famous artist, Steve Vai.
Yes,
It was his guitar design, and that's what we have. But I have a few of his Ibanez's, and so those are my favorite. I wish I could say it was the old favorites that are always said, but that's the one.
You have all different kinds of musical instruments and not just guitar. It's like Damon. I'll say something about this podcast, and he'll say, "Bro, we gotta get the catalytic converter with the carburetor and the X25QY." And I remember my friends that went to your house. They were like, "Man, he's got this and he's got that," and they thought it was so cool. So we need to make that happen again.
We do. That was a lot of fun.
They love that, but you're a very good player, and you get the chance to play much anymore?
I do, but I pretty much entertain myself in playing. I can play the instruments I've got, and kind of it's shut off from the rest of the house, so I don't bother anyone when I'm doing it, and just go up there and play and record and just have fun with it.
And you've had some semi-famous people up in your studio to play?
We've had a few that have dropped by here and there, and I cannot think of his name. But
was it Jeff Bates?
Jeff Bates is exactly who it was. Jeff was friends with a friend that we have that works at the Scott County Jail, and Jeff came by, and so we made sure to take several pictures and to play and to have a good time.
Well, I would think I'm gonna have to get you connected. I was telling you off air. I've got probably the best Bible teacher I've ever heard. His name's Stephen King, and he works for a construction company, but he's like an analytical guy, and he's done stuff in the aerospace industry and all this. But he's in the Mississippi Blues Hall of Fame. And when the first time I met him, he brought his dobro. And I've listened to Leonard Skinner all my life about Curtis Lowe playing. And I didn't know what a dobro was, but I need to get you all connected. But he's never been in trouble in his life. And I'm trying to think of what his band's name, Off-Road 61 or something. But they go to Parchment a lot, and he'll go and play for the death row side, and then they have a nursing home. So he's getting both those, everybody's dying, death row and then the nursing home. But he's done a lot in Sturgis, and he's got that look, but he literally has never been in trouble. But just a great guy. But I need to get y'all connected. Y'all would enjoy talking music.
I would, definitely.
Sheriff,
that'd be an honor.
Before we, I know our time's run out, but I know you've gotten a lot of attention, a lot of media attention about this cold case murder that was solved. And that's like a Dateline episode, and that's pretty remarkable. And I know you've had your handprint on that literally all your adult life. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the case was one case that the past sheriff passed on to me that he had, and so we've put a lot of time and effort, not only us but the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations. We just started kind of working together on the case, and as things worked out and progressed, we went through each and every suspect that was in the case, and it is filled.
Tell us the name of the young lady.
Chandra May was the young lady. She was 17, and it was on February 4th, 1986.
So
she was
you would
kidnapped.
have been
16. I would have been a
sophomore in high school.
Yep.
So you were, because that happened in Forest.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, well, it happened in Scott County. It was close to the Scott County Lee County line.
So as a teenager, you remember, because it was big news all over.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It scared most small towns, as it should. Something like that could happen.
And what happened to the young lady? She was
raped and kidnapped, raped, and murdered.
She was in her driveway, and they found her car, and it was.
Yeah, she had pulled into her driveway, was obviously stopped by someone, and had at some point had walked out to meet the person is what's believed, and was taken from her car. And the unfortunate part of the case, she was recovered on February 24th of 1986, and that was her birthday that she was found. So it's a sad instance. We arrested Reuben Weeks, who has just passed away in custody. I spoke to Chandra's brother, Tim, Saturday night after we had finished at the jail, and spoke with him, and of course, I was really like, I just want to get some resolve. I want to know why. I want to know all this. And after I spoke with Tim and the peace that he had of the case, and appreciative, and it from that moment on, I was like, you are the one that we are trying. You are the last immediate family member, true victim in this case, and for him to have that peace gave me a good bit of peace.
When you let that sink in, 1986, and now it's 2024.
Yep, 2025 is when we arrested him this year.
So almost 40 years.
Yes.
And so the former sheriff passed that on to you?
He did. Sheriff Richardson passed that on to me, and they worked hard on it. And it was actually, I think you had several agencies. Hinds County worked hard in it. A lot of deputies worked very diligently back then. And because of their work, we were, this was after the fact. We had an eyewitness forward after all these years, and that's why Reuben was arrested. And while that was going on, we had sent stuff out earlier to be tested, and then we were able to get DNA that put him right there. Plus, he'd been 30 years in prison in Missouri for doing the exact same thing.
So what was it that kept this, like I said, 40 years, and what kept this close to your heart the way you continued to investigate it and continued to pursue it?
Well, again, when the sheriff handed it to me, it was in a box, and that box never left my office except to go to other people to see what they thought about it. First thing was to let other people who maybe had knowledge of it or were good investigators to start looking at the case and what they could give, because it was a number of suspects, a large number of suspects that came out and trying to rifle through that.
And what can you tell us as far as that story? I don't want you to tell anything that you're not able to. But
the only reason I have to be careful of what I tell is that we just had grand jury, and again, with 40 years, there is a statement of his that we would have liked to have had, and I feel like that would have covered the full indictment, but because we just went through this hard. But I can tell you that we had some good investigators that have helped out to find people that actually gave us an eyewitness account, never expecting DNA to ever pop up, because we've tested so much over the years. And, any of the supervisors I work with, board supervisors, have never turned down a request for funding tests to continue. And one of the last few tests, and from a place, hopefully I'll be able to, well, after 6 months I can talk about it, but, from one of the least places I thought we would find it, that's where the DNA was found.
There was a whole lot of people that worked in the retired law enforcement.
Yes. I go through those reports, and that's the reason we were able to get to where we were. The men and women who worked on this in 1986 and afterwards gave us a good road to start going down.
Well, I appreciate you. I know that you're limited what you can say. I actually, I grew up in Jones County, and I have a friend. His sister's name was Lori Hill, and it's about that same time. And we went searching for the body, and then when they found her, but having been part of that, because I was with her dad searching for the body in the woods of Jones County, but I don't think unless you're a victim of that kind of crime, they won't. It's important for them to have closure and have
That's
peace. Right. And I know that a lot of those family members have since passed away, but the ones that are still there, they're still want that crime to be solved, just to give peace and have some answers. So I appreciate, because I know that's, you think about 40 years, a lot of people say, well, that's, that happened then. We got more important things. But I know, like you said, that box never left your office.
That's
so
right.
I know you give credit to a lot of other people, and I know there's a lot of help. It took a team to solve that. But I want to give a shout out to you for not letting that go by, and for being diligent to solve that. And is there anything you can tell us about that in the future?
Yeah, after it's gone through some time, I'll work with the district attorney's office to let out, the things that we were finding and what we had, and to see what, I also want to make sure that it's appropriate. I don't want to glorify the loss of Chandra's life, so I would want her brother to have some say-so into what was released.
And was this gentleman, you said, served 30 years in Missouri for the
in
same
Missouri
thing?
for the exact same.
And had been released?
He had been released and was back maybe about 2 years in Mississippi. The female in Missouri did survive and was an amazing witness during that case, and she also helped in this case, and she has an amazing story.
And I guess you had the I don't know, privilege is probably, I'm trying to be appropriate, but I guess you honor, privilege, I'm trying to think of the right word, but I guess you had the opportunity to actually put the handcuffs on this gentleman and
We did.
take him into custody. And
We did. Again though, I can't take all credit. I had quite a few good people, including my chief deputy who was there, Brad Ellis, and investigators that had worked years ago on the case were there to help. Randy Tucker from Madison County for the sheriff was there with us. It was just you don't want to say it was a celebration, but that was one part that lifted off, because you had Scott County's boogeyman. That was our monster for years, and to be able to find out who that was has been a great opportunity.
well, I remember reading all the comments on social media for people that lived here during that time, and that was like you said, it was a Scott County boogeyman, but it brought a lot of closure and relief and peace to everybody. Well, congratulations for your entire department for doing that. And
And I do want to say this, and just leaving, just to, again, my faith is strong, and that I don't believe you have to say that. You should live that. But I say that with also that, every murder that we've had that may not be solved, which there are not many, but the ones that are unsolved, I can still remember any of those names and tell you something about those cases. So we never are ever going to drop the ball on those. And, Chandra's case should be an example of that.
and I think, and I get this a lot with like in jail ministry, if you're doing something with orphans or starving animals, you can play a song, everybody. Like with jail, it's like, well, man, they ought to be locked up. They ought to be, and we agree, because the Bible's also about justice, and
That's
people
right.
forget that God's a God of justice. But it's funny, you'll get those calls, well, we don't want, because but then when it's their kid that got picked up for something, they're calling, hey, can you get them some Long Johns? Can you? We need to get him out. So it's different, and I think people, when you're a victim of a crime, or obviously when you arrest somebody, they're probably not going to, unless they get saved, they're probably not going to send you a Christmas card and say, hey, thank you for arresting me. So you have a very tough job. But I think victims of crime, because there's already so much hurt and emotions, and I think television probably does injustice because everything's solved.
Oh,
in
it
an hour.
does. It does.
But you have legal parameters you have to work with because not only do you have to have enough to arrest them, you have to have enough to prove them guilty without a reasonable doubt. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I know that just because those crimes aren't solved doesn't mean you're not busting your butt with
No,
a lot of stuff trying to.
And we've got a great group of investigators and deputies that work tirelessly. So it's not just me. It's we really have a group effort.
Hey, kind of a personal question. I know just like with that, I mean, you got to arrest this individual and it's solved, but there's still a life that was lost that you deal with, and just how because the trauma that you experienced, because you see the worst of the worst.
We do.
How do you cope with that without becoming an alcoholic or being depressed all the time? How do you process the things that you see and experience?
You know, the big thing is that one, we've got a great support group at work that if a case gets to one of the investigators or to one of the deputies, they've got folks they can lean on there and can talk to. Mine, again, though, I go back to my family. I've had my wife, my child, my mother and father before Nicole and I started dating. That, it was they weren't judging anything that I was going through. So I've had those to bounce those off of, and sometimes I get quiet when I'm thinking about something that just occurred or a case that we're working, especially involving a child or anything like that. And everybody gives me a little room to process that at home, and we may be sitting in the same room right next to each other, and just knowing she's there, that helps out.
Well, you do have a very close-knit family, and I know Mary Grace is probably as quiet as a kid as I've ever been around, but except when they talk about her daddy. She's
Right.
She's like a mother hen when it comes to you. And I know your faith is an important part of how you process things and cope. If you talk to young law enforcement officers, what advice would you give them?
In starting off is to, one, just like I said earlier, that faith has got to be your number one. You're not going to have family or career. You're not going to have anything. That won't exist. It wouldn't exist in Mike Lee's life. I wouldn't be where I was. But you've got to have that foundation, and it's got to be a real foundation that you have found Jesus and you've asked him to come into your heart. The other part would be, when I started, it was kind of a macho type thing. You really didn't talk about what you were feeling. And we had a lot of law enforcement that ended in suicide. And now we know better than that. We don't look at other officers go, well, if I was you, I would just, don't do that. We realize that's you, and you've got to process it your way to give them room to do that. And so we try to do that with our law enforcement brothers and sisters. And, so it, don't keep things inside. The more you bottle, the more you don't let out, the more if pretty much take it one day at a time. What you can control, and first you better have that faith, and secondly would be you better have a good foundation that you can sound off when you do get frustrated at things.
But we was talking a couple of weeks ago. We had, I think it's when we had Chip Muskelly name in, but Hugh Freeze was my mission partner from way back when, and somebody. The reason we were talking about, somebody told me one time, said, well, that guy had you fooled. And I'm like, man, I live with him. You can't fool, you talking about, he was just nobody then. It's like, it's hard to fool somebody when you live with them. And I can say, and I can't even vote for you. I live in a different county, but I've known you for a long time. And when somebody said, well, Mike Lee's got you fooled, I'm like, bro, you don't know him the way I know you. I've known you, and I've seen you and what you do behind the scenes and how you live your life and your family. So, I appreciate your stand for Christ. I appreciate what you do, and I can't imagine having your job. First of all, any law enforcement, but especially in the political part of it, to where the people that you're having to enforce laws are also the people that have to vote for you.
Right,
But,
right.
man, God bless you, and God bless your
thank you
family.
so
and I
much.
appreciate you taking the time to do this. Damien, we got anything that we need to tie up?
No, I think we about got her covered, bub.
You got anything you want to add?
Just that I really appreciate you coming through, Sheriff. Man, it's good of you to run down here and have a conversation with us, man. I absolutely accept your invitation to come into Scott County over
Please.
there, and it's been a good one, man. I love you guys, man. I appreciate
It's
it.
been an honor. Thank
Yeah.
y'all.
And like I said, even tonight there'll be because of what the sheriff allows, we'll have a group with all things you and the Embrace and others. They'll come in and give out. All the jails are different what they allow us to give out, so I get confused. But whatever we can give out, we're giving out. They're doing a little Christmas thing for them. I know
Give them
stamps.
popcorn. They love it, and it's cheap.
I know we can't give out fruit or gum. They jam the locks with gum. You know, so,
You don't want to know what they do with that fruit. Bub.
yeah. So, but anyway, but thank you for letting us minister there and all that. And Damon, I'll be in Mexico next week, but Aubrey's going to have Brother James Twiner. I don't know if you've ever met Brother James. He's
yeah.
an 80-year-old Methodist minister full of fire, and
Yes,
so
sir.
that'll be good. So hey, anything else, Damien, before we go?
That's it, bub.
Let me pray us out. So, Father, I pray for Mike Lee, Lord, that you would just bless him and protect him, and Lord, just continue to use him as a agent of grace in the position that you've given him. Lord, you've given him a platform to be able to help a lot of people, and Lord, we pray protection against the critics and the negativity that comes with his job, and you surround him with people that would love him for who he is as a person, not necessarily for his position, and encourage him, and be with Nicole and Mary Grace, Lord, especially Mary Grace as she begins this new chapter in her life. And we just pray for Scott County Sheriff's Department, Lord. We pray that you would continue to give them a vision of what they can do to make things better as they enforce the laws and help people, and just bless all of them. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Until we see you guys next week, man. Y'all stay prayed up.
Holy, holy is my God. Mighty power, love unshot.